There might be nothing more frustrating than being too early with an idea. And I don't think this is an experience that's limited to just the top thinkers of our day, whatever that means. I think it's a very human experience that we all share from time to time. It's an experience that reaches way down deep into the core of power dynamics and politics and ego, and I think it's happening way too often lately. And I think in many ways it's beginning to limit our evolution as humans. Think with me. Have you ever sat in a meeting or in a conversation with friends or even alone with your thoughts, and all of a sudden all the stars align and it feels like you've just uncovered a new truth? And yet, at that exact same moment, you begin to doubt for a number of reasons. You're not confident in your own feeling because it feels like it's happened outside of you, from some raw instinct that can't be trusted, that wasn't something that came from methodical research that you did. You also know that you're about to face an extraordinarily uphill battle just to be heard. Not because you fear the unknown, but because that's the way it's always happened to you. Society always reacts to somebody else's idea with fear. They treat it like an attack on their ego, on their intelligence, or their worth. We're also part of society, and we are all surely guilty of this same thing from time to time, and so we know the reaction. We cannot fault it. We know we shouldn't act this way, but ego is a very powerful thing. And so the idea that we had fades, or, it stays alive, but only in our own minds. And then over time, the evidence continues to pile up in our favor. And eventually we do get the courage to say it out loud because nobody else is seeming to connect those same dots. We feel this growing obligation that we must speak up. And finally we do somehow summon the courage and we do speak up, and we are not heard. And we begin to fall into despair. We begin to doubt ourselves. We begin to shut that door to the very part of us that was able to align the stars in the first place, that was able to see the constellation and give it a name. And then the evidence continues to pile still in favor of our idea. And we think, surely, they will remember our words. Surely they will tell us that we were right all along and grant us the grace that is deserving of the discovery that we made. But they do not. And they never will. At least not out loud. They do know that they should, and they do think about you. But that makes it even harder for them to yield to what the universe is demanding of them at that time. And so they stay silent. The thing is, this is the story of all of humanity. We cannot escape this pattern, not in our lifetimes. Think of all the great evolutionary movements that have happened in our history, most of which we're still in the midst of today. Civil rights, labor movements, equal rights. In all of these cases, the people who spoke these truths into existence were ignored, or cast aside, or even killed. And in most cases, they were not vindicated, or given any credit for their ideas until hundreds of years after their own deaths. Once all the egos of their time were safely tucked away into their eternal beds, and it was finally safe to retell the story as it actually happened, without any hit to the self. Only then would they begin to set the story right. Would they even think about telling the story again? And yet, despite all of this, we have to carry our torch anyway. We have to, no matter the consequence, no matter what happens in the moment. And that's because at this moment, we are the only ones carrying that torch. John F. Kennedy once said, "A man may die, nations may rise and fall, but an idea lives on." This is why we feel obligated. This is why we seek the courage to speak. This is why we feel called to set the story right. Our brains, our souls, are all carefully crafted to uncover the very truths of the universe. And whenever we get the courage to speak those truths, We are igniting that very spark that feeds the torch that we carry. So remember to be proud of your capability to discover. Remember to be proud of the discoveries that you make. Remember to be proud of all of your contributions to the constellations in the sky. Your ideas are always taking root, always. They are always being heard. They are always reshaping the universe, even if they don't feel that way right now. You hold a piece of the answer that nobody else holds, and your story must be told.